check my stream. Okay. Looks like I'm live. I'm gonna move myself down again now, actually, while I'm thinking about it. Yes. I know you guys are probably looking at this and being like, are we gonna sit here for 7 hours? Don't worry, you're not. Also, I know it's really late, and it's technically already Saturday for some people, but, I was in a rage for most of the day, and I forgot to do my own podcast. So we're doing a late night edition of my podcast, so yay. But let me tell people that okay. But yeah. Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Welcome back to another podcast episode. Late night edition. Yay. I was raging pretty badly for most of the day. So the podcast was something I forgot to do, and then I was on Zoom with Bryce, and I was like, I need to do my podcast. So here we are. We're gonna watch a little bit of The Line, and I'm gonna rant and probably have reactions to some of the calls. I know you guys are probably looking at it and being like, Sarah, this is 7.5 hours. Don't worry, we're not gonna watch all 7.5 hours. But, yeah. Let's just go ahead and get into this. I'm gonna give my thoughts as I can, because this is Sarah Talks podcast, and the only requirement is that I talk, which I'm gonna do, so yeah. And Bryce is here, hello love, who says, yay, I'm here for you love, thank you, and tell us what happened to you today. Okay, story time before I get into whatever this is. So as most of you know, if you saw my last episode, I have a PS5 now that Bryce, also I'm gonna move my there we go. I didn't like the angle that my camera was at. ADHD autism is all over the place right now. But yeah, so I have a PS5 now that Bryce graciously lent to me. And basically I've been using a capture card, and for most of my streams it was working, and then all of a sudden today it just stopped working, and so I had like this whole panic because I thought that I somehow broke the PS5, which luckily I didn't. So I've been trying to troubleshoot that all day, and yeah, so that's why I've been kind of raging and like not super happy today. But we're working out a solution. It's gonna be fixed, and I will be back to streaming soon. So don't worry, I'm not giving up on gaming. I'm just in a rough patch right now. But yeah, that's what happened. Also, since we're on the topic of stuff that happened to me today, but we for sure broke something. Yeah, apparently, the capture card has a cord that you have to plug into the computer and to the capture card, and I guess I was unplugging it and replugging it in so many times that the part that goes into the computer is now stuck in my computer, so I had to buy a new cord today. So yeah. But for something else that happened to me today, found out that one of my tutoring clients that I have through the company I am working for, her mom texted me this morning and said that her daughter is at her dad's the next 2 weekends, which is fine. So we're gonna meet again on April 5th, but that's gonna be her last tutoring session. And I'm a little sad because I started bonding with this girl, but you know what? It's fine. I have new clients that are paying me directly, so no harm, no foul, it works out. But that's my rant of why I'm a mess today. So, and also I was reacting to The Last of Us, which made me cry all over again. So, we're just having emotions today. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into Forrest and Erica. I might skip the intro because Forrest can talk for like 30 minutes. So, well, as you can see, because this episode is 7.5 hours. But yeah, let's just go ahead and I'm gonna give my thoughts as we listen. And yeah, don't worry, we're not gonna do the full 7.5 hours, as I've said. But yeah. And yes, tomorrow is The Last of Us Part 2.
It begins! Welcome to this. Hi, everybody.
Arden says in this that Forrest is allegedly undiagnosed ADHD.
I'm so tired, and I'm joined by Erica. How are you? That's how we're
Dude,
starting.
I feel ya. Me and Forrest, usually we have time to banter like beforehand.
Yeah.
Someone, I won't say who, it wasn't me, was late this time. And it was Forrest. He showed up close to the dime. I was ready to go. He was not. So we did not get an opportunity to chat like we normally do.
You know what?
In typical Forrest fashion, he's late.
I'm doing poorly. I'm also exhausted. I got back from a conference for the ABAs on Saturday, but it was like, the flights were really weird, and then I was so like discombobulated that I went to campus to teach today, but I only teach Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so I walked up to the classroom and I was like, what am I even doing here? So I'm also exhausted, and I don't know, man. I was talking to Arden before this, and it's like I have a lot on my mind, as I'm sure you do as well, Forrest, with regard to things, machinations, with regard to the world at large. Well, normally we get to come on here and just talk science and, get to have fun about that and talk to, people who have differing opinions and, want to put them to the test. But there's just this looming shadow of uncertainty that,
YouTube paid you today, yay!
At this conference, and it was like I was saying to Arden, it's like it was like a conference at the end of the world, right? Like it was the most bizarre vibe imaginable. Having been around a bunch of scientists who are not sure if their discipline's going to be there next year, or any discipline for that matter.
Yeah, no, that's you and I. So you and I had spoken a little bit ago. I texted you a while ago, and I was like, we should do a thing. I mean, we were like, yeah, we're gonna do a thing. And then life happened, and that never happened for me. I saw you put out a video. I'm glad you did, because I didn't have fucking time. I just got back, and by just, I mean like a couple of hours ago, my plane landed. I just got back from Florida for Free Flow, the Free Thought in Florida convention, which actually ended yesterday. And my flight out back to Oklahoma was a little bit after noon yesterday. And I sat on the tarmac for like 4 hours because there was apparently a bad storm. Oof. And then when we finally got up in the air, we did this all the way to Chicago, and landed about an hour and a half after my connecting flight had already left. And so I just paced around the Chicago airport all night by the way, there was nobody there because it was like 2 a.m. and there's nobody, and it felt like I was in an apocalypse movie. It was wild. I've got a bunch of pictures of me.
So Forrest was in The Last of Us
airport for like a mile, and it's freaky looking. And
Like no clip in the
then
back rooms.
yes, it's crazy. And then at 8 a.m., I got a flight back here to Tulsa finally. And okay, I got home, collapsed on the couch, and then woke up in time for Skep Talk. So I think I've slept for about 3 hours over the past couple of days, and it was just getting here. I am on my way down from the anxiety medication that I take to get on planes because I'm terrified of planes. So my brain's real foggy, and and also I have a new camera that Jimmy Snow sent me that makes me no longer look like a redhead, but I do look somehow like I'm undersaturated and also pink at the same time. I don't know what's going on. I'm just here for the ride, you know? I'm just showing up. I'm here for work.
You're finally matching like the the shadowy cabal, right? Like you're finally matching like the shadows are thrown on you as we plot in dark rooms against I don't know whatever it is that people call in, like, you know. I mean, we're just we're an evil organization. That's what we are. But no, I empathize with you immensely because I have also been in that exact position where it's like, oh my God, you're coming back from like a flight and you miss it by 30 minutes. It's their fault that you missed it, mind you, because like for the flight that I'm talking about, I was coming also back from Florida, and I'm pretty sure it was also free flow, weirdly enough, a couple of years ago. But it was like I was coming back, it was problems, mechanical issues, not even weather. And then they were like, sorry, we're not going to be covering this. So you can either pay $250 to, take an Uber out to a hotel because everybody was delayed by the weather who got into Dallas-Fort Worth. So they were like, you can either pay all of this money to stay somewhere or you can sleep in the airport. And I was like, I'm tough. I'll sleep in the airport. And it was miserable. It was abject misery. You can't find, it's freezing cold. You can't find anywhere to lay down. Eventually, I took a lot of my, I was like a chimpanzee. I took a lot of my laundry out of my bag. I created like a nice little nest out of my dirty clothes and just kind of like huddled as they vacuumed around my body in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. It was awful. It was absolute misery. And then you're exhausted for days. You don't recover from a night in the airport for days. It is horrible. And I'm also an anxious flyer, so I empathize with that too.
Fucking
sleeping in the airport is awful. Yeah.
Sure, I'll keep talking. I would love to.
I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to let you know.
No. I will keep talking. I'm an anxious flyer as well. I hate it, but I don't take anything for it. I just kind of nervously vibrate in my seat and wait till we land. Which
I was stuck in Las Vegas for 26 hours. Jeez.
Because you're just like, oh, I'm over the open sea for 8 or maybe even 15 hours, and if something happens, that's it.
I'm flying to Borneo this year, and let me tell you, I have already shat my pants in advance. But this is my first time trying it. I just got some just really, really chill. So it's not nothing too crazy, just some normal style medicine that I got from my doctor to try to make it a little bit less intolerable. I'm hoping.
I have done the Southeast Asia route before, and it's long, dude. Like I mean, you know this. I don't have to tell you, but I went. I went JFK to Dubai, spent a couple hours in Dubai, and then did Dubai to Bangkok. It's like 2 12-hour flights, and by the end of it, I was cooked. Like you pretty much don't want to go to Southeast Asia unless you're staying for at least.
I'm more scared of being in a car rather than flying.
It's just a long way to get there. It takes forever.
Fair.
Of course, it's wonderful, but it takes forever. Oceania is, I imagine, the same way. But Borneo is going to be a blast. It's going to be so fun.
That good? That's something, right?
I mean, ask Arden. I don't know.
It looks quite a bit better. I think the colors are a lot nicer, a lot brighter. So.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds here to try to fix that up, make that less stupid. Is this operational? Yes. Can I make this less stupid a little bit? That's I can live with that. Okay, we're gonna leave that there. Yeah, no, that already makes me feel a little less awful about this whole situation because I was looking fucking cooked. Oh, that's
dude. You guys are so good to. You're so good to the audience. I show up in 480p and I'm like tough shit. I'm in front of the camera. That's as good as it's gonna get. You can see me, and plus it obscures my. it obscures my adult acne, which I'm always happy to do. Is to keep you guys guessing. You don't get to see all my pores.
I am here. I provide
Flying
for the audience.
is
Let me
like
show
orders
you every
of
pore I
You
own.
do.
magnitude
Bring
more
this up a
safe.
little bit.
Yeah.
Now I just look like a fucking
My
ghost.
therapist has even
This is
told
the
me,
show, y'all.
because
This
I was
is what
talking
you
to her
tuned
about
into.
like
This is what
my
you're here
anxiety
for.
of flying,
Enjoy.
or like
just gonna be this
traveling
for
by
6
myself,
hours.
and she was like,
6
you know, the
full
airport's
hours of
actually
watching
like
Forced
one of the
Adjustment,
safest
the
places you
contrast.
can be, and I was like, yeah, good point.
That's it. That's all you get.
It turned out. Oh, that's good. Yes.
You'll like it.
Yes. I hope Jimmy's watching this right now. I hope he too, because he tunes in to check on us every now and then, and I
Yeah,
hope he's
he's not
checking
gonna
us
be
out at this moment. Like this is what's going on my network. This is what my channel is. Why
He's not
is it
gonna
so
like that
much
either.
different?
He's gonna have an issue.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Hold
Oh
on, I'm
my
not looking. I
glob.
was in another tab. I was in another tab.
Why is it so much? Then that's probably a good thing. Ooh.
Ooh, no, that's perfect.
Why is it?
Keep it that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna leave it right there, about, and I'm gonna lighten it. I'm gonna make it a little cooler, just a little bit, not that much. I'm gonna put it right there. That looks fine. That's what it is. That's what you're getting, y'all. That's what the show today
You're gonna
is.
you're gonna have to live with that, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Ugh. All right. Well, what a show. What an event. What an adventure it's already been. We've already started, and you know, the lines are coming in, the people are calling, and we had a lot more calls, and then they saw half of that and they were like, never mind.
Give up.
But
They were like, I could, but will I?
Imagine
I'd
live
rather talk to
streaming
somebody who's serious.
troubleshooting with OBS. Yeah.
Gosh.
Dude,
What a
how
show.
was the vibe at Fill me in.
The free flow is great. Free flow is fantastic. I have never I understand why Seth said that's like one of his favorite conventions, because honestly the vibes were immaculate. People were incredibly chill. We had great speakers, lines of people wanting to come out and hang out and like get to know everybody. Nobody too
Forrest
crazy.
made a post,
You know what I mean? Nothing too
about-
despicable happening.
I think free flow,
But
and
I
they were trying to
loved it.
figure
I
out.
loved
They
it a
asked
lot.
him like what his name should be,
Put this here.
and he just said "Internet
So I
Science
remind
Man,"
Arden to help me fix that.
and I
at the
just
end of the
found that
show.
really funny.
There we go. Yeah, no, it was wild. I picked up a copy of Deconverted by Seth Andrews, and a copy of Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot by Seth Andrews. Because he had a table where he was signing books, and if I, for even one moment, can make his life worse, then it's been a good conference for me. So I made sure to hang out for a while and buy some books. So that's fun. And then somebody brought me this fucking tooth. Look at that.
Oh, that's
Somebody brought me
beautiful.
this megalodon tooth. Little tongue stone.
OBS catch regards
so what a wonderful-
troubleshooting is a harder
incredibly
video
cool.
game than
They
Astro's
run a,
Playroom.
scuba diving
Facts.
school, and they offered to give me free scuba diving lessons anytime I want. So I'm losing my fucking mind over that.
That is an ideal gift. I I don't have a PO box because I'm notoriously secretive about where I go to university, but I'm not going to be teaching next semester, probably because I'm taking the semester to finish my dissertation. And my plan is to finally open up a PO box, because I have had so many people offer to send me various bones.
You got to do it.
Of the human and non-human variety, and I want that free osteological material more than anything.
Thank God we beat Astro's Playroom before
Really?
you're set up
You
to
gotta
this
do it.
shit.
You get
Yeah,
sent-
for real.
Go.
You get sent some weird. I was gonna say you get sent some weird stuff, and you also get sent some wonderful stuff.
That's what I want.
Over
More than
here,
anything.
I'm trying to dig through these without like holding up anybody's address, because I actually have like a pile of things. This is from like one of the people who went on my Galapagos trips, sent me a Christmas card that like just arrived.
Cute.
Because apparently there was like a thing going on in Canada, like the post people were striking. And so like I just got this recently, but it's got like a picture of our group number 1 from the Galapagos Adventures. Look at them.
So
Super sweet.
cute.
And
Absolutely
Fucking
adorable.
thank you so much, Audrey. And we've got like people sent me. I was passing out those little red cards with your constitutional rights. Somebody with a printing press sent me a few bags that they printed themselves and laminated themselves, and like so I can
Oh,
pass
beautiful.
those out and whatnot. Just people are awesome, yo. You've got to invest in one because it's very much worth your time.
It's a good time to be investing as well in knowing your constitutional rights, since you can get disappeared now in the United States. So, folks, make sure you're up to date on your constitutional rights, and make sure that you have a plan for people to get your story out there if something befalls you.
Seriously. Gosh. With that, do you want to start doing the things, or do we have something else going on? We probably have announcements, don't we?
Dude, hey man, you're the host. They should have probably made me the host because I'm not sleep deprived, but it's you, so.
No, you know what?
I'm
the boy. I'm the boy, and so I'm going to do the thing.
Yeah. I'm the boy, so I'm going to do the thing.
Passenger princess on this stuff. I just hang out on the side.
I'm definitely passenger princess,
100%. I don't have to remember anything.
Right.
I get to roll up in 5 minutes till the show starts. It's great, and of course I do that even when I'm hosting. So.
Well, I mean, if half of the people who said on my Instagram and TikTok that they would call in and easily handily disprove evolution because I don't have any videos of one animal becoming another, if half of them called in, we'll have a good long show tonight. We'll see what goes on. I'm planning personally to
Party Jim Bob World Tour
to go for as long as we possibly can. I think Arden has a hard cutoff around like 5 a.m. And I think that she's lazy and we should just go for as long as we want. It'll be great. I've got no obligations tomorrow.
I'm keeping a list.
Yep.
She told me the same. She was like, I could maybe push it to 6 or 7 a.m., but not any further than that. And I was like, well, how are we expected to continually? I mean, we're going on an exponential record-breaking show here, right? Where like we break each record, but like by more each time. So eventually, we'll just never quit. We'll never stop. It'll be the show that never ends. For your
24 hours straight. Just kidding.
My friends. Such a good song.
Let's do calls. I'm down. Oh wait,
unless you have
announcements. Do you have announcements or no?
I don't, because I don't know what the schedule looks like. But there are other shows, y'all. And I'm sure Arden will send me the schedule eventually. And until then, we're going to do a thing. It's Alfred. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk to Alfred, calling in from toasted xanthan gum. Stuff that makes some things chewy, like aromatic.
You're still doing. You're still doing the bit. I was curious. Actually, until you started, I was like, I wonder if he's still doing that. It comes to me every now and again, but I'm pleased to see it. Some things never change.
Just incredibly stupid is what's going on, and so like I kind of have to just roll with it. You know what I mean? Let's talk to Alfred, who says this is all that's written on the screen. It just says evolution from a Roman Catholic perspective. Let's see what that means. Alfred, you're on the line with Forrest and Erica. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you. Before I begin, can I make a quick comment? I know some of the calls you guys get from alleged theists, I almost wonder if they're controlled opposition. I'm not saying that's the case. It's just like, it's almost as if this show functions as a bug light for, let's say, really sophisticated Christians. And what you're getting from callers, it's not representative of Christianity as a whole. I'm sure you know that. Just as this show isn't representative of all atheists. Just that comment.
I mean, these shows are combative by nature a little bit, and so like, it's kind of tricky to say. Like, we're going to invite a lot of people who are vehement God warriors that are out to prove their case and act a little bit foolish. And we're going to invite some trolls because it's a public platform, and so that's what's going to happen. But I feel like the majority of people who call in are the people who are just genuinely bought into this the thought process, and they are trying like hell to make it make sense to them, and so they're trying like hell to make it make sense to others, or they genuinely just don't understand how anybody could think any other way. I think the majority of the calls we get may not be like good arguments, but I think they are good faith.
Yeah, I agree. So, I don't
Would
know
you
how
like to
many calls
host
you
the
guys get
line?
from Catholics. Most of the theists who call in seem to be, frankly,
I think it'd be
Bible-thumping
fun.
ignoramuses. And when I hear, well, I just read in my Bible, yada, 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 often these people, candidly, they should not be reading the Bible. They read the first 3 chapters of Genesis, and they interpret it literally. They think it's an actual account of something that happened. And we Catholics know better, or at least we should. We hold the Bible as inspired. Just for us, it's not everything. We have apostolic tradition, the catechism, the magisterium, church pronouncements, all of that. So for us Catholics, the Bible, it's a library of different books, different genres.
Who's your favorite
and
host?
We get that the Earth isn't
Forrest,
6,000 years old.
Alyssa,
and there's room for the theory of evolution.
and
It doesn't contradict any dogma. And,
Promise.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything heretical when I say humans evolved from apes or all that jazz,
Right.
And Erica.
Sure. the I guess the issue that I would take with it is that just like so
And
many
Aaron
things with the
Roth.
Catholic Church, I hooray, but that is also a very new phenomenon. You know what I mean? That that the infallible Word of God has recently changed to make it that this is acceptable.
Okay, I mean, would you say a little more?
Sure.
The Bible hasn't changed.
Back in the day, right? But the infallible vicar of Christ on earth
They're all
certainly
so
does,
great.
and that person's subjective opinions, which also happen to be the unchanging Word of God, does change. And so it's for the same reason why the Catholic Church recently, within the past couple of decades, apologized to Galileo and said, actually, you know what, dude was probably right, despite, everything we put him through. Yes, the Catholic Church does now accept evolution, and that's radical. It raises a lot more questions about the God that they believe in, but at least they're keeping up with the science, so that way they can keep
And you're
up
a
with,
patron, yeah.
modern times and stay relevant.
But I don't do
It's hooray,
the one that
that's
gets my
less thing
name
we have to fight through.
on the show.
It's still it's
but I support
usually the way it's
Chewed Gum.
presented to me is it's either
So I think
deistic
it's
or
like-
theistic
I think
driven
it's
evolution, where
$10 a
either
month?
God set up the
Yeah.
universe in such a way that evolution would happen on its own, or God drove evolution intentionally. So still has a magical aspect.
And I'm a
to
channel
it.
member.
No matter what, you still have you have this issue where it's like, okay, well now the whole Adam and Eve thing, that's poetry except for where it isn't, except for where it is, kind of thing. It's just deciding new parts of the Bible that were absolute, undeniable, unequivocal truth just a minute ago, but now definitely aren't, because evolution doesn't conflict with faith, because the science is so overwhelming that we have to be able to just kind of keep up and tread water and keep getting donations in. I don't know. I think it's wonderful that religious organizations like the Catholic Church are willing to adapt a little bit. I wish they do it a whole hell of a lot more, but that's just me. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and try to hold you guys to a higher standard, or to give you guys higher praise than I'm going to give.
And you were
any
a
other,
caller.
as you
Yeah,
would
I
call
called
them,
in once.
Bible thumping ignoramus.
Actually,
who
I'm gonna pause
believes
because I
the
want to
silly
talk
things
about
that
that. Maybe we should have put on that episode so you guys could have heard my call, but I think I shared it on my Facebook. So, but I called in to Chewed Gum about wanting to give up the fight for women's rights, and being told oh, but you're in a blue state, so you're safe, and I'm like, but not really, and it was I was so anxious, but I'm really glad that I called, and I'm definitely going to call again in the future now that I'm more comfortable and I've started, coming around the community more, and everyone was so supportive of me and in the chat and stuff. So it was really nice. But yeah, that was my experience calling.
Believe for the same reason that you believe the things you believe.
Sure, and one thing you seem to be implying that from the beginning, Israelites, Jews, Christians just understood the scriptures literally, and that later, we got smart enough to interpret them metaphorically. Because
I mean,
they
that's
contradict
not entirely what I'm saying, but that does play a lot of the part into it. Yeah, is that like this is the
Well,
absolute truth until it isn't.
I know you're a biologist. You're not a Bible. I don't even know how you pronounce it.
I am not a
Exegete
Bible.
or something. Yes. Do you think
Theologian.
the ancient Israelites, when they wrote the first 10 chapters of Genesis, do you think they took that as a 100% literal, accurate depiction of what happened in the past? Do you honestly
I have
think
no
that?
idea, but I have no idea, but I know that millions and millions of Christians.
Your thumbnail should be
do.
a capture card that
So,
has a frown on it and
It
it's
doesn't really
crying.
matter to me,
That's
and I
a
also
good
know that
idea.
Millions and millions of Christians historically have as well, and so like when we talk about like this being an adapting thing, I know that the Catholic Church did, and so at one point or another believe that those were literal things. They wouldn't have tortured people to death for not believing it if they didn't. So like. It's I don't know what the very first Jews who wrote these words down believed. It's not my area of expertise, but I do know that plenty of people who have preached the Bible, plenty more than it would be necessary for it to be a horrible crime against humanity, have believed.
But in happier news, I made a
And still
really
do
nice
today.
flyer for
All right. Well, I anticipate
myself
you're gonna be
and the
getting a lot of
president of
calls
the book
from
club at my
people
school.
who are
We
arguing
worked
against
on a
evolution,
flyer
so
for
have
our
fun.
two clubs to
I hope so.
So
do a
you have any other further
collaboration,
questions?
and I'm really proud of it.
Yes.
we
Sorry?
so we really enjoy getting these types of calls, like the kinds of calls from Bible thumping ignoramuses, if you will. I mean, I tend to hope that they're simply uninformed, but I've been doing this for long enough here on the internet to know that isn't always the case. In fact, especially if they're willing to call into a show like this, usually it's explicitly not. Usually it's quite intentional. But that being said, I'm one of the people who is extremely sympathetic to the deistic or theistic evolutionary perspective. And you've sort of caught me at a time when I'm like way more informed than I would honestly like to be,
Yay.
because I've had to spend so much time. Like I've read 10 books in the past month just on the history of creationism and the history of science, like basically through the 18th century with the Diluvialists up to the present day. Through the fundamentalism of the 1920s and through the creation science rise in the 1960s and through the intelligent design advocacy movement in the 1990s and early 2000s. And I concur with you that it is true, right, that creationists like that we have today are a relatively new thing. That is not to say that anti-intellectualism, because of taking sort of a scriptural basis, is a new thing, as Forrest sort of pointed out when we were talking about Galileo. And actually, I think that's why the Catholic Church had such an easier time accepting evolution. No. But what I'm saying is, I think the reason the Catholic Church is so chill with evolution is because they already kind of did this rodeo with geocentrism, right? So they already kind of had the duked it out with science and came out the other side, and you can see this historically. The popes that came after geocentrism was sort of plinked out of existence are basically saying, all right, when Darwin comes along and before him, when Cuvier and Lyell come along and start to imply that the Earth is quite a bit older than people had previously given it credit for, you see the Catholic Church actively take their hands up and go, we know that the Bible and science don't contradict each other. Therefore, if the Bible is saying this and science is saying this, there is some way to harmonize them, right? And that's because, again, they already did this. Evangelical Christianity would have a very different experience, in part because of a bunch of random stuff that sort of set the stage in the United States for hyper-democracy, hardcore Protestantism, and cultural divisiveness. But all of that being said, I appreciate your perspective, and I'm glad to hear that you're accepting of evolution and that your faith works with it. I'm sure Forrest and I and you could disagree on a million things philosophically, but I am so pleased to at least start off the evening agreeing on the science. So that's where I'll throw my penny into the hat.
Yay.
Penny added.
Penny.
Right. Thank you.
Forrest. Thank you.
All right. See you later.
We like a good
I feel
first
like
call.
The TLDR was just like Catholics can believe in evolution. Like, yeah.
But like,
I'm curious. I'm curious to know where the hang up is, though. Like, is that like, is that meant to say that religion isn't that bad? Is that meant to say that, like, you know, everybody could do whatever? I don't know.
well, and like you and me have hosted this show so many times and have encountered theistic evolutionists, and you know, I spend a ton of time talking about them on my channel in a very positive light. Like, I don't know if you rolled in here thinking that we were
Walmart
gonna be like,
right now, and
"Wait,
it's
they
full
can?
of Bibles.
Wait, they can?
Right.
They can actually accept that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
correct. Oh my God, shut it down. You know, who knew? It's like, no, I'm totally down with that. But part of the purpose of this channel is to reach the people that don't, right? Like,
Right.
I can't, I'm not going to speak for you, I'll speak for myself here, but like, it is not my goal to dunk on Christians or Muslim people or Jewish people. It's my goal to dunk on creationism. So as long as we're copacetic with that, and not secondarily, but usually tangentially, just because it's not typically what I'm aiming to talk about, I also want them to be okay with things like, you know, science in America, insofar as it has impact on like trans people and climate change, and you know,
Right.
a woman's right to choose, and so on and so forth. So it's like we can have those conversations too. But like, yeah, I'm glad you accept evolution. Good. Maybe tell that
Radical,
to some of the evangelicals in your life. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, because it's like I'm happy that this person believes in evolution. That's wonderful. But I agree with you. My goal is to go after these ideologies, not just these people. And I'm not trying to make any particular Christian look bad. That's not my goal. I'm not trying to make any particular Muslim feel stupid. That's not my
Recap
goal.
Bibles,
My
journal
goal is to show
Bibles,
how
Bibles for
worthless these
kids.
can be and how
Ugh.
they lead to so much anti-science thinking.
That sounds
And
like
so,
Hobby Lobby.
Like, when it comes to things like this, yeah, wonderful that you believe that.
Which I don't go
Do you
to
also believe that there's like a
anymore.
divine plan that justifies, you know, the atrocities that we see in the world around us? Because then we have some issues with that. Do you also have issues with like abortion or with, you know, vaccination or with something else? Because then we can talk, like, trying to say, well, some Christians believe in some science is not a groundbreaking thing. For me, it's not news, but it's definitely a reason to, like, for hope, to say, okay, great. Well, now we can get through to you on the next thing. All we have to do is get some guy in a fancy hat to tell you that it's okay to believe this, and you will. You'll be all right.
Well, and like, you know, gosh, I don't know. I've had such a lesson in the past several months of like, the history on this actually really matters. Like, I used to be a hater, right? Like, you know, take me away, throw me in the back of the car, because I used to be a hater of the history of science and the history of, like, you know, just history in general. Why do I care what some guy says about something? Like, I want to learn about the thing itself. But I'm converted, man. I'm all about it, because modern creationism of the 1920s came about because of, like, you know, spoiler alert, it's a branch off in part of the Darby dispensationalism, like the end times theologies that ramped up in the late 1800s and talked about like the end is near, effectively, which in a way, as I hope to explain in depth, too much depth here soon, it sort of ties creationism in with this weird, almost like a death cult, right? Like, and we'll see where that lands us today.
And that death cult is really the whole of evangelical Christianity. And like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, no, we couldn't have come from a monkey, because that would mean that the world isn't going to end very soon. It really does tie in the beginning and the end very much. They kind of have this whole circle thing. And so, like, the idea, and you brought up, you know, climate change and whatnot earlier. I've said before on the show, you know, if you move into a house and you believe that if the landlord tells you the carpet's going to be replaced next week, you're not going to work very hard to take care of that carpet. You're not going to care. And similarly, if you think that the Earth is going to end in the next
50 years,
if any fictional
character had to kill you, who would you want it to be? Nathan Drake.
Nonsense and changes there. You're not going to care about climate change. You're not going to care too much about hunger. You're not going to care too much about systemic inequality or social justice. You're just not, because it's all going to be over anyway here in just a minute. And so, like, it really does play into everything. If you don't know where you came from and you think that some guy just poofed you into existence from dirt and or a rib, then, like, I'm sorry, you're not going to take these situations as seriously as somebody who knows that, like, we are all here by natural processes, and to natural processes we shall return, and there is no point, and there is no goal, and there is nobody behind the levers. There are no levers. We just have to do the best with what we got. It's a very different way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, I think it's something that I could certainly do a better job of myself, but it's like, yes, there are consequences to this. We're watching them play out right now, right? Like, there are real-time consequences to believing that the Earth is going to end soon. And we need to use all the tools at our disposal to basically be like, look, you know, how many times has the world almost ended? It turns out a lot, right? One of them kicked off fundamentalism in the 1920s with the Great Disappointment and the origin of Seventh-day Adventism.
He'd be like, oops, sorry, there, pal, as he tosses his swing cashew into the Grand Canyon.
Yep. Jesus didn't come. The dispensation didn't come to pass. It turns out the end of times didn't happen. And then, crazily enough, in a sort of recovery phase, Ellen G. White starts having visions about the origin of the Earth and about, you know, when Christ really is coming back, and that's where you get Seventh-day Adventism, which sets the stage for all sorts of bugaboos in the 20s, in the 60s, in the 2000s, and now. And it's like, brother, there's a thread that, like, I feel like a conspiracy theorist sitting up at my board, but it's like, it's really difficult to ignore the similarities. We keep having the same conversations. It's really kind of crazy.
Yep. It is wild. It is wild, and it is just a different, slightly different verbiage for the exact same script. It's like when you talk about creationism versus intelligent design, where you have intelligent design trying desperately to separate itself from creationism when it's the same fucking. I made a stupid Spider-Man meme of the 3 Spider-Men pointing at each other, and it's creationism, intelligent design, and magic, and it's literally they're the same fucking thing, and like. Dude, that's all it is. Dude. And like you're trying to give me some big words like irreducibly complex and like the genotype and all these things. Like, oh wow, what's the actual mechanism? Well, it's magic.
What? Like, I just bought a bunch of candy because
oh my god, the paper trail
of my fucking kid.
The paper trail for intelligent design is. You couldn't have asked for a better paper trail. It goes back to the first mention when Philip Johnson gets all his buddies together and they sit around and they're like, okay, what can we do? Like, you know, McLean versus Arkansas, we can't teach creationism in schools anymore. So what the hell are we going to do? We have to rebrand. We have to rebrand this. Yeah. What are we going to call it? We'll call it intelligent design. And then, I mean, and you know the classic story, but this goes all the way up to when they tried to get Of Pandas and People taught in the Dover School District in Pennsylvania. And the local science teachers pour through the history of Pandas and People, which they're saying is a secular hypothesis. They're like, intelligent design is a secular theory. It can stand alongside evolution. And
because I'm a fucking kid.
Her first name. She sits down, she's like combing through it.
I was going to say, when did you have a kid?
Subpoena, the transitional fossil of Pandas and People, earlier versions of it, just had the word creationism instead of intelligent design proponentists, but they control F'd and fucked it up. And so there's one version of Pandas and People that she found that has C design proponentists everywhere where creationism or intelligent design proponents is supposed to be. It's like these people evolutioned themselves. It's crazy to see. Like the audacity of trying to pretend like that's not just creationism. It makes me so mad.
They intelligently designed their branding. That's the only thing that we did. Like it's. Oh man, we've got a bunch more people on the line, and we've got a couple of atheists and one agnostic that I'd like to just kind of like power through really quickly because they sound like some short questions that I'd like to get through before so we can open the line for more theists. Really quickly, are you seeing line 17/5?
Let me check. Hold on. I got to pop over to that tab. 17/5. Yeah, I'm seeing that.
17 being yeah. I'm going to jump on that one really quick, and you can see why there. And then I'm also going to look at line number 2/1 because that'll be pretty quick as well. Let's talk really quickly to Scott. Pronouns Scott. Calling in from miserable orangutan. Scott, you're on the line with Forrest and Erica. How you doing today?
Fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I just want to be clear. Like we're on the same page that Scott isn't a pronoun, right?
Yeah, it's my pronoun. It'll work for me.
It's my pronoun.
But it is fundamentally not a pronoun. That is a proper noun. So it isn't
Yeah, but
pronoun.
I'm not a fundamentalist.
Oh,
Yeah, well, but here's
my
the thing:
god.
is that you just now have said it's my pronoun and I'm not a fundamentalist. Those are both pronouns. If your pronoun is Scott, you should have said.
not being a fundamentalist.
Yeah, but see, there again, you just used I. You should say Scott is not a fundamentalist. Scott, this is Scott's pronoun. You can't say words like I or he if Scott is your pronoun.
In my world, I
My's a
can't.
pronoun.
Doesn't exist.
My's a pronoun and I's a pronoun. So again, if Scott is your pronoun, which is again, can't stress enough. This is not like this is not like an ideological thing. This is just proper grammar. Like this is just basic parts of speech. So like,
Okay.
Scott is a proper noun, not a pronoun. So that's. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure we are on.
So your final predictions for The
what,
Last of Us Part
how
2
this
are Ellie
works.
kills the
This is, like,
fireflies. Any predictions
third-grade
on
grammar.
character deaths or no one
It is
dies?
literally
Sure, of
so
course.
easy to just be like, I want to use he, him. Like, who cares, dude? Like, it's just not a big deal. Why does it matter?
Yeah,
I
so
wanna
I think
know-
she kills the
That's why I took the
fireflies.
call. I want to know why it's this big of a problem. Is like that's really what my issue is.
Oh,
And
is
I
that
think-
why we're talking about this?
I think Joel will die, but I
Well,
don't
yeah,
want
'cause
him to, but
why
I
else
feel
would
like
I
he's
have asked
going
you?
to.
Like, why? I just want to know why this is so weird that you have to make it like this whole thing to like plant your fucking flag on the fact that you don't know how to speak English properly. Like, what's the goal?
He's insulting me now. He's using effing flag, and I can't speak English properly. And wow.
Well, you're literally taking a hard stance against grammar. So you were sitting here
Yeah,
like
I've
actually digging
often
your
been
heels
known
in.
to do that. I've often been known
You're-
to take a hard stance against
Okay.
grammar.
Why?
I don't mean
What's
to
the
mess
point?
with you. Oh,
Oh, I just want to know
found all
why.
kinds of points and things. But I thought we were going to talk about agnosticism and atheism
Yeah.
and Christianity and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you put in your call screen, why are atheists bothered by agnostics? I'm not. That's the answer to your question. Further follow-up question, like, can you just define the word pronoun for me? Can you just tell me what that is?
A pronoun is, well, you have a proper pronoun, is that Scott is a proper pronoun, and pronoun
Nope.
is, excuse me?
Wrong already. Scott is a proper noun, not a proper pronoun. A pronoun is something different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a pronoun is something that replaces a proper noun. Yeah, so pronoun is something that replaces a proper noun in order to shorten the burden of on speech. So a proper noun would be Scott. So I would have to say Forrest is talking to Scott, and what Forrest wants Scott to know is how pronouns work. I would have to be, but because we have pronouns, we can replace the words Forrest and Scott with I want you to know. So I and you are pronouns. He, she, it.
I
they,
love
these
when
are all
Forrest
pronouns.
schools people in
Replace proper nouns.
Yeah.
So that's what a pronoun is. So you understand this isn't like a thing for you to like. If you're gonna fight against this, you are just fighting with the fundamentals of English grammar, and you've been blowing it this entire time because you keep using pronouns throughout this entire call.
Any particular
Well, of
reason why
course
you
I
think
am.
Joel will die?
Because
Right.
I'm
You
having
just-
fun with it.
You just chose not to.
Because I feel like Ellie
he,
has to be the
him
Last of
on a
Us,
thing to
and
make a point
if
about
there's
what exactly.
two people alive, then she's not the Last
I don't
of
know.
Us.
Just take a walk with you through
But I don't know. I feel like that's stupid.
screwball land. But I did want to talk about atheists
Well,
and agnostics.
you've
and,
succeeded on that by putting something just pointless and dumb. We have now gotten the opportunity for 4 minutes to explain third grade English to people.
And you open the door and I let you in. When it's
That's
not really my
what-
place I wanted you to
If
come
I
into,
opened
I
the door-
wanted to go to your place. And that
You
place
put
was
the
to
thing
talk
in the
about
call
atheists,
screen.
agnostics, and
I
faith.
feel like if you didn't want Forrest to jump on it, you just would have been like, my pronouns are he, him. Like, who cares?
Oh, that's
dude? Like,
super
I just don't
interesting.
understand why it gets under people's skin so much.
Yeah.
For me personally,
That's
like
really
it just
where I'm
doesn't.
at.
I don't get it.
I don't get why this is a problem. Like, if it were somebody calling in arguing about evolution, like, I can understand why they have an issue with it. If they're arguing about why we should believe in God, I can understand why they have an issue with it. Like, even the atheist agnostic thing, I can understand why somebody might be confused and we can have talk. I do not fundamentally understand why this is that big of a deal to you at all.
Oh, well, that whole pronoun thing is, my pronouns are this or that or this or whatever. It's just me. I'm Scott. That works for me. Scott this.
I and
Scott
me are
that.
still pronouns. So like, Scott,
Yeah.
if I were to talk about you to Erica just now, like if Erica and I were to begin speaking about this call, would you prefer for me to say he called in and said a bunch of dumb shit, or would you prefer for me to say she called in and said a bunch of dumb shit? Which would make you more
I
comfortable?
would prefer you said Scott called in and talked about a bunch of dumb shit.
Oh, okay, yeah, but like, as we have just covered a minute ago, pronouns
Yeah, I
replace
know.
proper
Scott's a
nouns.
proper pronoun,
So
you know.
I can't spend the rest of my days saying, and then he called in and she called in and then Scott called in and Scott said this and Scott said that and Scott couldn't understand this and Scott had a problem with that. And then she called and she didn't do these things. Like, that's just obnoxious, and it means that I have to remember your name for the rest of my fucking life, which I don't want to do. So I just
work for me.
just wanna-
Which I don't want to do.
I just want to understand, like, what the big deal is, what the hang... Because, like, at the end of the day, with things like this, we have this Poe's Law situation where it's fundamentally difficult to understand if you are just trolling or if you actually just are, like, incredibly self-important and lazy.
Troll, but you got in on
But
this pronoun stuff, and I'm kind of
It's
burnt out
just a
on the
part of
pronoun.
speech. It's just
Yeah,
a part
and
of... Are
also-
you... How far away are you from being burned out on
Why
verbs,
would I
Scott?
even ask
Like, at
what my
what point are you
pronouns
going to
are?
stop using... At what point are you going to stop using verbs because it's just a bit too much for you?
At what point am I going to stop using verbs because it's just a bit too much for me?
Yeah,
That's
verbs are another
wild.
part of speech. What
Yes,
about
I know.
adverbs? What about adverbs? Those are pretty... They
He
can get
keeps saying,
complicated.
yes, I
Yeah,
know, but I don't
adverbs
think
are
he
fun.
really knows.
Yeah.
I don't know,
so
dude. I just, like, I can't imagine calling in to want to have a conversation about something specific, right? Like, you wanted to come in and talk about atheist perspective on agnostics. Like, I mean, here on the line, I'm known for being like, yeah, I consider myself an agnostic.
And
Some
that's
people
what
consider
I've
that
always
the same as
thought
an
about.
atheist, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, if you call in to talk about that, I just don't understand why you would have such a massive hang up on someone having the courtesy to say, what kind of pronouns do you want us to use? Like, why does that bug people so much? Like, oh my God, these people, I can't stand how polite they're being. That just really grinds my gears and makes me so
I don't
angry. Like,
get what the deal with pronouns are. My
I
pronouns are
literally
this,
can't
my pronouns are that.
who cares?
It's just-
Why do you
What?
care so much?
Well,
Brother, it's
why are
fine.
we talking about? I just wanted to talk about the subject of atheists, agnostics, and the faithful.
No, I don't believe that.
Well,
because if that was
I
true,
don't
then you
think
would have
it
just
is.
been like, you
No,
can
that's
see him, who
because he
cares?
went-
Like, I
he went
I
down
don't
that.
believe
He went down that road.
Who
That's-
did?
Greener said, "What are your pronouns?" And I just said, "Scott will work for me," even though I knew that
who-
Scott is not a pronoun. Well, it's a proper
Okay.
pronoun.
It's
There
not
you
a proper
go. You
pronoun.
just
There's no
outed
such thing as a proper
yourself.
pronoun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just
I was gonna
busted
say
yourself,
that's
dude.
not what
Like-
you said earlier. Earlier, you were pretending to not know the difference, and apparently, you still don't know the difference, but it's just in a different way than you let on. Yeah, it's boring. It's just boring and it's lazy and it's a weird fight to pick for no reason. So, with that, Scott, I encourage you to go pick up like any introductory grammar book and just kind of pour through it a little bit and try to think about why communication is important. Just try to learn like why communication is important and what it does for us as a species. You know, language has been around for at least like 1.5 million years, and it's really helped us as a species grow. And so you don't have to speak, you know, with perfect Queen's English and all this stuff, but like just taking like a hard stance against like a basic part of speech is the weirdest fucking hill to die on that I've ever heard of. This is what we mean when we're talking about somebody being a sensitive snowflake, it's people like Scott, because Scott can't decide what parts of grammar suits Scott's personal fucking dignities and ideologies and stuff. Get your ideology out of my grammar, dude. Pardon me, I said your. That's a pronoun. Get Scott's ideology out of my grammar, dude. Anyway, I wanted to take that call for a second because it's so fucking stupid. Erica, do you have anything else for Scott?
I mean, I just want to be like, you can just come on here and be like, I have a bone to pick with like trans people or whatever. Like, that's clearly what this is about.
Yes.
So I wish you would just be straightforward about it. Like, you could just come in and say, I don't like that trans people are a thing. Oh, sorry. Scott can just come in and say Scott doesn't like that trans people are a thing, and then we could have that conversation instead of beating around the bush. Because, like, we have that conversation here on Skep Talk, and Forrest is, like, super, super educated on it. He just did a massive video that took a shit ton of research for it. I know he'd be happy to talk about it with you. So you could just say that, or you could just act like a normal person and be like, my name's Scott, I use he, him, I want to know why you guys have a bone to pick with agnostics. And then Force would be like, I don't. And I would be like, I consider myself an agnostic. And the call would be over anyways. So it's like, do you want to have the conversation or not?
I guess that's the last question for Scott. Scott, why is it so difficult to just say that you have an issue with trans people and you don't understand this stuff, and to just ask a question like a person and learn and grow?
I don't have any trouble with trans people.
Okay, why do you have such a problem with pronouns?
Trans people. I've got a relative that's a trans person.
Okay, why do you have such a problem?
I don't have a problem with trans people. My best friend's a trans person. Okay.
Well, I don't know. It's just that, why are we bothering with pronouns? What are your pronouns? That is so goofy now and then.
Because as we just explained, it helps us. Because as we just explained, Scott, it ensures that we are able to communicate effectively. I can't see you. I don't know you. I've never met you. So it's important for me to know how to address you with respect. And so I want to use the correct pronouns for you, because if I sit here saying she, then you might be a little offended by that or uncomfortable by that. You'd probably prefer he. I'm not, like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to force anybody to pick one. If you want to say no preference on your pronouns, that's fine. We have callers that do that sometimes. We have non-binary people that do that sometimes. But, like, to pick a not pronoun as a pronoun and then make it this thing about, it's just so goofy that we have to pick our pronoun. It's literally just being polite. It's just basic politeness. And what's more important is that as we do these things, it opens the door and allows for trans people to also tell us what they would like to be called, if maybe they aren't passing in the way that they want or something like that. There was a certain time when someone establishing their pronouns in a conversation was effectively outing themselves. And now, if we all do this, not only are we communicating more effectively, but also it's protecting those people. We get people who call in that are women that have a deeper voice or men that have a higher voice, and they're cisgender. And it's nice to know what they would prefer, because I can't fucking see them. It's just being polite, Scott. Why do you have such a fucking problem with being polite?
Good.
Any answer to that, or were you talking the entire time I was talking? Oh, Scott hung up. Okay.
Cool.
Well, that was fun.
Awesome.
Typical.
Yeah.
I'm glad you took it, because I saw it and immediately thought the same thing. Like, and half the time, like, we don't even bother, but every now and again it's good to be like, hey, what's the hang up here? Like, he could have called and said, my pronouns are Scott, and been like, I have an issue with pronouns, and then we could have had that conversation and it would have been fine.
Would have been great.
But it has to be so passive aggressive. Like, and what's so funny is that these are the people who are accusing us of being so particular about language, but they can't just come out and say what their issue is. Like, it's so frustrating, and it feels like such a waste of time. Like, you can just be honest, and then we can hash it out, and it'll be done. Like, no harm, no foul.
I will like to the because inevitably every time
absolutely
I do something
ridiculous,
like that, we fuss about somebody's pronoun choices or whatever, or lack of choices. We inevitably get a few people in the chat or in the what do you call it, the comment section that are like, oh, you should let this pronoun stuff go. It's a call in and tell me why. If you think that I'm going overboard, if you think that me taking 10 seconds or I guess that was like a 6-minute call to talk to this person about why speech is important, numbers on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. My name's Forrest. I'd love to talk to you about pronouns. Anytime.
Call in. I'm just infinitely curious as to why people care so much. Like it's such a small
Seriously.
thing to do that makes such a massive amount of people more comfortable in the same way that, like, I don't know about you, but when I was in high school at the beginning, and sometimes in college as well, like in undergrad, you'd write your name down and then they'd say, what do you want to be called? Like what? And that's the space. So like if your name is Jonathan, you could be called John, or if your name's Samantha, you could be called Sam. And it's polite in the same way that's polite, right? Like it's just a nice thing to do that makes infinitely more people feel better, and it makes no one except for the 0.00001% of people who have a stick up their ass about this unhappy. So I just don't think it's, I want you to call in too. If you've got an issue about this, I want to hash through it, and I'd love to watch Forrest systematically walk through this with you as well. I think that would be eminently entertaining.
Speaking of that long video, I'm still getting like I was looking at that again, and I already hate it. It's been out for like 2 seconds, and I already hate it because like I wish that I had put like numbers on the screen as to which citations I was using, which references I was using at what time, because so many fucking people are not understanding that sometimes in the video I would say historically we thought of things this way, and now we know these other things, and I would put stuff in about the historical stuff. And so I have 1,000 comments like, some of your citations disagree with you. And it's like, yeah, that's honesty. That's what that is.
That would be like I'm discussing, the history of literally any argument ever, and they're being like, well, this, or the history of any science. Like, we're talking about relativity, and they're like, are you aware that your Newtonian citations disagree with relativity? It's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
America has, if you live in the United States, America has failed you with reading comprehension or you're just lazy. Like, I find that that's the problem a lot of times too, where it's like, and I've been doing my best lately as well to be like, okay, if I say something that has a citation, here's the citation, because it just takes a lot of grief out of the picture instead of having to be like, here's the specific line of the specific line, I'll throw it up on the screen just because it's literally, as I'm sure it takes 10 times the amount of editing time just to do all of that. But it seems like that's how we have to do it these days.
We just have to be ridiculous. Arden, can I read the thing that you put in the producer chat? I don't know if that's private or not.
Oh, wait, sorry, were you saying that to me?
Yeah, I was just asking the very last thing that you put there. Is it okay to read that out loud?
Absolutely, go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so Arden put in, because he was saying, like, I don't hate trans people, I have a trans friend or a trans whatever. And she put in, I also, I have a trans family member, so does my dad, and he's still a fucking bigot. Shit, dude, yeah. It was giving, I can't be racist, I know black people. You know what I mean? It's very much the same as I sit here and defend my use of the N-word.
It's literally worse than that, Forrest. It's like, I can't hate black people. I had slaves. That's what it's like.
Yeah,
it's like I am associated with somebody that I am persecuting actively, and it's like I honestly, it's baffling. Today, I will never not be baffled by this type of conversation because it's
so stupid. It's so stupid. I love digging into, because like really, I was talking with Seth about this yesterday when we were waiting for the like final lunch thing, and he and I were just kind of sitting there shooting the shit, and he was like, "Do you want to go record this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so we went into this other room and just mic'd up and had a long conversation. That'll be out on his podcast at some point, I'm sure. And that was one of the things we talked about was like this vehement anti-trans, sex binary whole thing. And like honestly, the narrative that I get all the fucking time, this is just new propaganda. This is new science that's replacing the way things have always been. It's always been this way, and this is all just new woke stuff. That if you look at a science textbook 60 years ago, you won't find this stuff in there, and that's how I know that it's wrong. That it doesn't make personal sense to me because of my understanding. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to anybody. That you're changing definitions, that you're changing the vocabulary, that you can't prove it in this way. Like all these, the same fucking arguments that I have with creationists, the same arguments that I have with flat earthers, the same arguments that I have with anti-vaxxers, literally word for word, the same arguments are what I have to have with transphobes and people who think that sex is strict and immutable binary forever. And it's like, I'm sorry.
I'll add to
I just
that.
don't.
I'll add to that. Go back and check out some of the eugenicists and some of the race realists of the 1920s, like during the movement post Madison Grant, after he wrote The Passing of the Great Race. And look at some of the sentences that these guys put into print. Swap out some of those words with words that we use today, and you will realize that it's the same thing. They couldn't comprehend the idea that humans are far less diverse, especially genetically, than we appear to be at surface level. And it's like, yeah, because the science advances, right? Like fundamentally, this is a problem with people not understanding what the point of science is to move forward and learn more. And necessarily that often means revising previous ideas. But these people, they want to take middle school like science class, not even like a biology class, and they want nothing to advance past that ever, right? They get mad that they put feathers on the birds, and then they get mad that the cosmological constant has changed, and then they get mad that we add more missing links. They get mad about the pronouns. They get mad about genetics. They get mad about race. Yes. What can I do about this? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't think I can say a whole lot about what I think people should do without getting myself in some pretty serious trouble, especially given, my affiliations. But please keep an eye on your local protests. Please call your representatives, because evidently that works a little bit, a tiny, tiny bit. If you call and complain nonstop, it helps a little bit. But things are very dire, you guys. It's not good.
Yeah. I just want to throw out there while we're talking about this, there is a list you may have heard of hundreds of words which must be limited or avoided entirely and are scrubbed from all public-facing websites. They must be limited or avoided in like any public communications, any governmental communications, anything at the federal level. Like these words are effectively banned. I have a partial list of it here. This is from the New York Times. Accessible. So if you like the concept of the ADA at all, accessible, activism, activists, advocacy, advocates, affirming care, all-inclusive, allyship, anti-racism, anti-racist. Just out of curiosity, if you are not anti-racist, what are you? Assigned at birth, assigned female at birth, assigned male at birth, at risk, barrier, barriers, belonging, bias, biased, bias towards, biases, biologically male, biologically female, BIPOC, black. The word black.
Jesus.
The word black. Breastfeed plus people. Chest feed plus people. Clean energy, climate crisis, climate science. The words climate science. The words climate science are banned. Commercial sex worker, community diversity, community equity, confirmation bias.
Wow.
They are not allowed to talk about confirmation bias. They are not allowed to talk about the logical fallacy that they are exhibiting. Cultural competence, cultural differences, cultural heritage, cultural sensitivity, culturally appropriate, culturally responsive, DEI, disabilities, disability, discriminated, discrimination, discriminatory, disparity, diverse. Diverse.
You're in D. You are in D.
In D's,
yes. Alphabet, you are in D.
I'm skipping a lot of these. Diverse group, diverse community, diversify, diversifying, enhancing diversity, equal opportunity, environmental quality, equality. The word equality is on this list. Equitable, equity, ethnicity, excluded, exclusion, females.
Wow.
You'll notice male and males and white and things are not on this list. Females,
of course
females,
they're not.
Feminism, fostering inclusivity, gender-based violence, gender diversity, gender identity, gender ideology, genders, gender affirming care, Gulf of Mexico, hate speech, health disparity, health inequity, historically, the word historically, identity, immigrants, the word immigrants, the word implicit bias, again, not allowed to talk about the logical fallacies, implicit biases, inclusion, inclusive leadership, inclusiveness, inclusivity, indigenous.
I'm really mad that I have to listen to this.
Inequality.
This
We're not
makes me
allowed to
so
talk about
mad.
inequality, inequity, inequitable, injustice. We're not allowed to talk about injustice. Key groups, key people, key populations, Latinx, LGBT, LGBTQ, marginalized, men who have sex with men. That is the sentence. The phrase men who have sex with men is on this list. Not women who have sex with women. Mental health, minorities, minority, multicultural. The word multicultural. The word Native American. The words Native American are on the list of banned words that you are not allowed to use in government document. You are not allowed to say black, and you are not allowed to say female, and you are not allowed to say Native American.
At least we're getting the list read to us by Forrest Valkai.
Oppression,
True.
oppressive, orientation, people plus uterus, person-centered care, political. You're not allowed to use the word political. Pregnant people, pregnant person. Pollution. You are not allowed to talk about pollution. Privileges, promote diversity. Pronoun, pronouns, the words, pronoun and pronouns. Race and ethnicity, racial diversity, racial justice, racially, racism, segregation, sense of belonging. Sex, sexual preferences, sexuality. You are not allowed to talk about sexuality on government websites now. Stereotypes, status, systemic, socioeconomic, sociocultural, they/them, trans, transgender, transsexual, trauma. You are not allowed to talk about trauma. She talked about biomedical research. Literally, like, almost
Okay, I
every
guess I can't
fucking
talk about my
possible
trauma
part of
anymore.
Biomedical research involves trauma. You experience a car accident, you are experiencing trauma. Tribal, trauma, traumatic, tribal, unconscious bias, underappreciated, underprivileged, underrepresented, unsecured, victims, vulnerable population, women. You are not allowed to say the word women in government documents now. And that's, like I said, I skipped a huge amount of these, and these are just the ones that the New York Times pulled. There are plenty more. Question
Jesus
for all
Christ.
of you bootlicking nut jobs out there. If Joe fucking Biden were to put out a list of words that are not allowed in government documents in public face and started scrubbing all government documents, pulling down vast swaths of military history and government history and everything because it didn't fit with the banned words list, what would you do? What would you call that? Would it matter what was on that list? Would it matter if it was the exact same fucking list? Or would you think that maybe the free speech crowd, the comedy should be legal crowd, the government stepping up, the don't tread on me crowd, maybe might try to be consistent for once in their fucking lives? Maybe. I don't know.
Keep in mind, too, that some of these words also apply to grant applications, right? So if you
Yes.
want to apply to
Yeah.
work on maybe, I don't know, like, let's say you want to talk about the differences in different people groups or in men versus women or in males versus females
What
or
are your
whatever
thoughts on
with
just
regard to
this
how
shortened
medication
list?
impacts
I'm
you.
pissed.
Good luck. You want to talk about
That's
trauma, like Forrest said,
ridiculous.
blood force or trauma and car accidents or whatever? Good luck doing that. It's going to be incredibly
happen.
difficult to conduct any research as it stands. But this should just go to show how clueless the people who are pulling the strings up here actually are, right? This isn't even a competent fascism. It's incompetent fascism in a lot of ways because, and this is why so many fascist regimes end up burning themselves out, although they do immeasurable harm in the meantime. Speaking of immeasurable harm, just in case you guys are curious, you guys know I do a lot of field work in Kenya, but USAID or USAID sent a whole lot of life-saving drugs to places like Kenya and Ethiopia, really Eastern Africa as a whole. And some of those drugs were HIV preventatives, things like condoms and medication and things of that nature that help slow and eventually stop HIV spread in these places, which is pretty important because
I'm just gonna add this and then I'm gonna end this because I'm pissed. But, like, I can't even exaggerate as a joke what is on this list. Yeah. It's this list that proves why no one is safe, even if you live in a red or in a blue state. Can't talk about women, can't talk about trauma. Literally, my whole life is trauma, okay? Like, I've had so many traumatic experiences, and I can't talk about it. So, those of you that said I have nothing to worry about, go listen to this list and then tell me that I have nothing to worry about. Anyway, rant over. Okay, well, I am pissed, and I am gonna end this because I'm gonna rage quit, everything. But thanks everyone for watching. My next podcast, I'm gonna talk about my, experiences with being late diagnosed autistic and how that manifests in my life, and yeah, but I will see you. Oh, I forgot my outro. I'm so pissed that I forgot to do my outro. But don't forget to be a good bandicoot, because Crash is watching, and I will see you in the next one.